Our first guest is a young man who has already made 50 appearances in goal for the Fighting Irish hockey team, including 30 straight starts, even though he is only a sophomore. This season, Cal Petersen has compiled an impressive 2.39 goals against average while helping lead the Irish to a 9-4-4 record. His key stop of a penalty shot in Boston earlier this month enabled the Irish to come from behind for a thrilling 4-3 win over the then third-ranked Eagles. He is also a 2013 draft pick of the NHL's Buffalo Sabres. And like our own Joe Schmidt, he joins us on the Jack Swarbrick Show today, fresh from a final exam. Jack and Joe, take it away.
Yeah, but I'm betting Cal did better.
I'm not doubting that one bit, Cal. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you.
It's
I
great.
appreciate you guys having me.
It's great to have you. There are a lot of really interesting positions in sport, but I'm not sure there's anything that matches a hockey goalie. I mean, it's the pressure you face, the tradition of hockey crowds, having fun with goalies during the course of a game. So tell me how it got started. Where in sort of the evolution of your youth sport activities did you say, I want the guy who's getting shot at by 100-mile-an-hour pucks?
Well, I mean, first when I was younger, I started as a forward and, kind of did the normal hockey thing. And my dad was a goaltender and played Division III in Minnesota. So, whether he passed that down to me or not, I think I was kind of pretty influenced by the pads. I thought they were pretty cool and kind of jumped in the position. But my dad was actually strongly against it, and I think my mom said you got to give him a chance. So I guess, so far it's kind of the rest is history.
Do you think that transition? So you moved from forward to goalie, and one of my favorite books that I read, in high school was The Outliers. It was all about, they used the hockey guys in the beginning of the book, talking about the way that they kind of evolved through their process, and they were trained as a young kid. So that transitioning from forward to goalie kind of takes that argument out of place. So like, how did you kind of develop the skills that are required to being a goalie? Flexibility and quick reactions. Are there something that you naturally had, or?
Well, I mean, I made the transition pretty early. I was about 10 years old. So ever since, I've been taking goaltending very seriously. And, it's funny you mentioned that because, I think that that's kind of the way that, hockey players and especially goaltenders kind of reach those high levels is that amount of practice. And, growing up in Waterloo, it's not exactly a hockey hotbed. So it had to be a lot of traveling to kind of accumulate those hours and, get to a level where I felt like, I could reach my potential.
Yeah, maybe talk a little bit about being from Iowa and being a hockey player and the son of a hockey player. How do you get ice time? How do you kind of come into your own as a hockey player growing up in the heart of the Midwest and maybe not in a hockey town?
Well, I was very fortunate to have, the USHL's Waterloo Blackhawks in my hometown and grew up going to those games, had season tickets, and really being around that kind of sparked my interest in hockey, and that was always a goal of mine to play for the Waterloo Blackhawks. And, as I started to progress in hockey and that became more of a realistic goal, obviously a lot of sacrifice had to be made by my family. I spent, a lot of time playing in Minnesota, driving 3.5 hours back and forth, 3 times a week. So that was probably a little bit harder on my parents than me, but it was all kind of the end goal of playing for the Blackhawks, and that really helped me. It, gave me an opportunity to come here, and so I'm really grateful to kind of grow up in that, atmosphere where I had that in my backyard.
Let's talk a little bit about the psychology of this position. You have as calm a disposition on the ice as anybody I think I've ever seen. You've made some saves this year on breakaways, for example. The bad news is we've had some breakaways. The good news is you made phenomenal saves. I'd be jumping up and down after one of those saves, right? I'd be high-fiving people, and man, you are so calm. How do you develop? Is that just who you are? How does that demeanor come about, and is it what you have to be a successful goaltender?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that's kind of what you have to have as a successful goaltender, and hockey's obviously a team game, and kind of the role for me is I have to make all the saves that I need to make, and a couple that I probably shouldn't make, and my job's to be there when the team has a breakdown, and like you said, if a breakaway occurs, it might be a little breakdown, but I think it's kind of my job to do that, and I think it's I have to kind of portray a level of calmness, whether it's me making a big save or letting up a goal, I need to let the team know that, I'm there and I'm calm and cool-headed and not too high, not too low during the game.
Talk a little bit about, how young this team is. We've really made, feel like a huge transition, and, we're a much better team this year than we were last year. Talk a little bit about, being, a calming influence amongst like the younger guys on the team. And I mean, you have to be a leader, I'm sure, as the guy that kind of heads up the defensive effort.
Yeah, I mean, kind of being in a goaltender role, you have, I guess, a little bit of that kind of leadership role, just in the fact that, having a young defensive core or whatnot, you need to, a lot of communication on the ice and, sometimes bail guys out every now and again. But I think it really starts with our leadership group that we have, as seniors. They've really, given the young guys an opportunity to come in and be able to play and not be, tied down and able to make mistakes and, be able to still recover from them. And I think it's allowed, especially my confidence, as well as the other sophomores, the other freshmen, to be able to kind of go in and play how they're supposed to play and not feel like they're hindered or under too much pressure. So a lot of credit goes to them for giving the underclassmen an opportunity to be successful.
You mentioned communication on the ice. For those of us that don't know hockey, what exactly does that entail?
Well, at least for me, if I ever go out and play the puck, there's a lot of communication between, my defenseman and myself to read the pressure of the forecheck coming in and to make the right play, who needs the puck. And also it's, from me to my defenseman, picking out different, points where there's, an opportunity for a threat against, obviously in the position of goaltending, you see a lot more than the players do, because they're a little bit more puck-oriented. But, it's just kind of helping out, kind of being an extra set of eyes back there. And I think the communication in our own zone has been something that's really helped our success this year.
You are part of history as the goalie in the longest game in NCAA Division I hockey history. 5 overtimes in the playoffs last year. Just an unbelievable evening. The crowd, by necessity, dwindled throughout the night as this thing went overtime to overtime to overtime. 2 questions for you. One is, what's the experience of playing a game that long? But how is it that you lose that game and the team plays so well the next 2 nights, doesn't let that really challenging defeat hang with it and wins the playoff series?
I mean, to your first, question, it was obviously a really cool, experience. And I think while we were playing, as the overtimes, kept adding up, I think we kind of realized we were, in for something a little bit bigger than just a playoff game. And it's obviously very cool to be, a part of history in that regard. But, to be able to, end up losing that game and then come back the next 2 games and for our team to play so well is, I think, a true testament to, our determination. And also, I think we were a lot more well-conditioned than the other team going into those next 2 games. And, I think, whether it's our strength coach or the leadership, they really didn't, give us an excuse to come out, because obviously our lives were on the line with playoffs. And I think it, as tough as it was going so long, I think it was almost motivational that, if we're going to go that far, we're going to finish this out. And I think we understood that, we were a better team, and for us to go out and, do so well in those 2 games, it was a true testament to everyone involved.
You've referenced leadership a couple of times now, and obviously, as we talk about on this show a lot, that tends to be the difference maker from season to season. We're going to have talented athletes and great coaches and great facilities, but do you have the leadership on a team that helps you reach your potential? You're a member of the Notre Dame's Rosenthal Leadership Academy. Help our audience understand a little bit about what that program's about and what benefits you think it brings to you.
I mean, I was very excited to have the opportunity to join Rosenthal, and I think it kind of gives us an opportunity to meet with, other leaders from different teams and, not only, forge relationships, but also it's almost kind of a think tank. And, when it comes to, how we can make our teams better and how, cohesive we can make our teams in order to be, successful. And I think, Notre Dame obviously has rightfully so high expectations for its athletes, and I think that's cool that all these like-minded athletes, whether it's guys from our team, guys from other teams, can come together and be able to understand that expectation and kind of take the responsibility on themselves and pass that on to the team. And I think it's really helped our team, understand, obviously having a young team, but, to be involved in that, I'm really grateful.
Talk about maybe the people that you were able to work with in Rosenthal. I don't know if our viewers are aware of just how many sports are in it. It's all sports are involved. Maybe about a specific relationship or relationships you might have made in the organization and maybe some stories that they shared with you that helped.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I'm with two of my teammates, Stephen Fogarty and Mario Lucia in our vulnerability group. So I guess you kind of get to see a side of those guys that, maybe you wouldn't have in just common conversation. But I think kind of being in that leadership position, you have to, you have to understand your fellow, teammates just as well as you understand yourself. And, as big as it's been, listening to what other sports do, it's cool to see the connection that you can have with different athletes. In my group there's Kayla Little, who's the goaltender for the soccer team. So I was able to kind of connect with that and be able to share the same kind of struggles that we have, being in that position.
One last question before we wrap it up. First part of the season's gone great. Second place, one point back of UMass Lowell. Coming off one of the most exciting victories in the history of Notre Dame hockey, down 3 goals with I think 7 and change left at BC. Look ahead for us. How does do you get some time for Christmas? What comes next? What do you look for in the second part of the season?
Yeah, we get around a week off for Christmas, so it'll be nice to go home and see our families. But then when we come back, it's right back to work, and we're around New Year's we play Denver. In Denver, and they're a very good hockey team. They're ranked just right behind us, so that's going to be, huge for a non-conference play. But I think guys are happy with how we've done this first half, but I also think, we left some points on the board. So in no means should we be, satisfied being in second place, because I think that only further, gives us a determination to go for first place and, realize our ultimate goal of winning a hockey's championship, making the tournament, and ultimately a national championship.
Well, thanks so much for being with us today. I got one favor to ask for you. I want you to help me out. Sometime in the coming weeks after the holidays, we're gonna bring Joe over, get him in pads.
Oh God!
put him in the goal, and we're gonna get Mario and some of his friends to take some shots. Okay, will you help me with that?
Yeah, no, I'm perfectly in.
We're gonna need to train prior to this, by the way, because Lucia's gonna enjoy destroying me with pucks. So.
Yeah,
thanks so much for being with us. Really appreciate it. Great wishes for the holidays and the second half of the season. I hope it continues to be as successful as the first part of the season, and we'll be back in a minute.